Welcome back to another episode of the podcast, The Body Heals Itself. In this podcast episode, I would love to talk a little bit, or maybe it's not a talk, but also a little bit about the rant, about the spiritual bubble. So, when I grew up, my mom is very spiritual. So with all the angels, the crystals, she included me into witch circles, did Reiki, sent me to energy healers, to whatever. So while I grew up, I felt so lonely in this because all my friends didn't have this perspective. Sometimes I used to take a friend with me when we did moon rituals with intentions and whatever, but it wasn't incorporated in my life. So it felt like it was very separate from each other. And as I felt so lonely in this, or in general, when I grew up, I felt like an alien, and I think the spiritual side of me amplified that aspect even more. So, and I know when I tell that people oh, it's so cool that you grew up with this, and yes, I think it's very cool. I think I've integrated a lot of things because of that, especially what energy work is, what if energy in general, meditation and so on. But also, there was no one in my friend circle who was interested in that. I don't think there was even YouTube, or maybe YouTube just became a thing, not sure, but there was no Instagram, there wasn't really social media, I think there was no WhatsApp, and especially growing up in Switzerland, more the rural area, it wasn't a thing. You had some yoga and stuff, but most of my friends, as I said before, weren't into this kind of thing. So what I realized was I really felt this urge to wanting to fit in. So what I used to do was as I wanted to try to fit in, I felt I had to put this spiritual side of me away. All the spiritual stuff, I had to go away, and I wanted to fit in. So fitting in for me was I had to get a good career, make lots of money, look nice, but also I had this pull towards this industry in general, the financial industry. That's very interesting in retrospective. But yeah, when it came to the spiritual, I was no, I'm pushing this all away. I don't want to do anything with this. I don't want to be sensitive. I don't want to feel or sense things or the energy or talk about it. I just want to fit in, be normal, be like the others. Maybe then I will feel good and I feel oh, I'm part of something. But even when I put this away, I felt even more lonely because it felt I was wearing a mask the whole time, because it wasn't who I truly was and what I believed in. So I think a lot of you can relate to this, coming out of the spiritual closet. So this came then later when I started to talk about it again, but I was so scared to talk about it. What will my friends think? Will they think I'm woohoo, whatever? And so this was a big step to talk about these kind of things again, the practices, the moon, the energy, whatever, the crystals, there's a different way to healing when you're sick, and so on. So this took a lot of courage to start talking about it. And at the same time, with Instagram and YouTube, it was more people came into this consciousness, into the spiritual world. It was yeah, so cool. So many more people are into this. And I was yeah, I can connect with my tribe, my kind of people in the spiritual, who are into spirituality, and we can do rituals together and ceremonies. Yes, this is what I wanted forever. It feels so good. But what I realized then when I went to these kind of events or circles or sometimes even retreats, it was then too woohoo for me. It wasn't grounded anymore. It was a lot about, I don't know, just floating away, and it just also there, I didn't feel I'm fitting in. Again, the same thing came up as before when I was in the corporate world, or in the corporate one general, just pushing the spiritual side of me away. It was still the same thing, and then the spiritual world, and I think it's being more amplified. Then what is this spiritual bubble? And so much is not I think there's a reason why we chose to incarnate in this world and how this world is now. And it isn't about fairies and light and whatever and love. Only love can heal the planet and everything is so good, you're divine, blah, blah, blah. And that's like one aspect of it, but the other aspect is also buy my course about self-love, do this course for pleasure, do this tantra course, you need that and that and that. It's like, then you're at home doing these courses or you go into these spiritual communities and you're like, oh my gosh, all my other friends are not cautious enough anymore, I need to change my friends. And I have been there as well, where I'm like, oh, I can't really fit in with my friends I have anymore. And I think actually that's really, in general, that's normal when we change a bit. But it doesn't mean that they're not cautious enough. And it's not about who does more spiritual practices. It doesn't matter if someone does a moon circle or works with the energy or whatever. It doesn't matter. Because it all comes back to if you connect with each other. And it's so beautiful that every one of us is so different. But yeah, just like this whole... It actually makes me a little bit sad thinking about, oh, I always wanted to have like this spiritual community, life, whatever. And now it's like, but this also doesn't quite fit, but the other one doesn't quite fit as well. So like finding a middle way. And I think this is beautiful. And it's about really like, what does it mean to be here on earth? What does it mean to be alive? Is it really like, I'm doing my other self-love course at home because I need to love myself more? It always comes from, and most of the time when we do a certain course or whatever, it's always from like a certain need. Like we think we need to fix something, we think we need more and more and more. But are we then truly living? Are you then consciously integrating that into your daily life, into how you're being with yourself, in how you're being with others? And I think that's missing so much of the time. And then it's like only everything is always like, it's this kind of moon, so that's why it's like this. And I know I do that myself as well, like, because there's always truth to it, but it all comes back to the life we are having here, like integrating the worlds. And I think especially when it comes to spirituality, like, oh, it's all love and it's not even compassion, it's like all love and light. Like, no, but we need like some fire. There is darkness in this world, and then we label it as bad and good, like light is good, dark is bad, but it's all part of life. So it's not about judging it, it's just about experiencing life. And it can be so beautiful to go to a retreat and discover something new. But then it's a question, do we really want to always live like this and thinking like, oh, I need to do this ceremony, this, then, I need to do this practice and that practice. It's so important, only then I'm connected to the divine, to God, to the goddess, to whatever. But I think it's so much more simple. It's really about coming back to just living and being aware of where you are creating your life from, where you're reacting from, and like the awareness and compassion towards ourselves and others. There's no practice that is superior to another, because I think I see that a lot as well in these communities, like healing, coaching, and this is the best, and you need this and that. No, I really don't think so. Like there's like a point where it's like, just start living. Are you truly fully living the more you're doing these practices? I don't think so. Like, do you live and you have like your online course about self-love? I always come back to self-love, I don't know why, but can be any other course. But doing it at home, isn't it about going out and experiencing life fully? And also there being like, life is stressful, life is this uncomfortable, it can be discomfort, but this is part of life. It's the duality of expansion and contraction. It's part of life, and embracing that all. And I think, yeah, some practices, they can help you to be more in your center, to be more aware of yourself, but it's also not about being always love and light. Sometimes you need your fiery voice, you need to set clear boundaries. But also there it can be like, oh, I need to have, like, it can all be too much, like the spectrum, like there's a pendulum. And some people are just like on one extreme and then the other. They're like, oh, I need to have clear boundaries. I don't have boundaries. Obviously, when you think you don't have boundaries, it will always come up. But it's not always to voice something or set clear boundaries. Sometimes it's also like, can you let people in? Can you make them feel uncomfortable? And I think this is a huge thing. Or also with coming to relationship or attachment style, it's like, oh, this is a big, people usually don't even know what they're talking about. They're like, oh, I'm an avoidant, I'm an anxious. And it's like you put yourself into these boxes, like you limit yourself by thinking that. And then they're comfortable in this description they created about themselves. And they're like, I'm so aware. I know which attachment style I have. I know that he is this attachment style, so it's not working. You're not only limiting yourself, but you also limit other people by that, and you're not seeing them in their full potential and trying to come together despite these, I don't want to say issues or things. It's like despite, it's not even despite, it's like you're human. It's all part of you. So can you come together and be compassionate again with yourself, but also the other person, how they react, because what they see and experience is always different than you experience something. It doesn't matter the attachment style, it's different thing. It's your inner world that determines your outer world. It will never be the same how someone experiences one situation, never. I think it really comes back to being a good person in the sense of taking care of one another, trying to be considerate without giving yourself fully away, so you're still aware of your needs. It's not that difficult. And I think this is for me what it means to be spiritual. It's like you're kind to one another, you try to help when you can, you're compassionate, you're considerate, and it also doesn't have to be like this every day. You can have your days, especially where you struggle, where everything is a fucking shit show, and there also voice it. Like, let's say, like, let's scream, let's be angry. Don't let it out on someone else. Just be aware of it and create a space for you. I have friends who you can talk about or tell this. I think this is so crucial, to have this connection where you can be so honest about what's going on with you. And then it's not about, oh no, I'm having a bad day, so I need to do my affirmations. Everything is good, I'm divinely protected, everything is working out in my highest good. Yes, that's all true. But don't suppress your experiences away. Embrace your whole experiences, your whole life. And then it's not, again, it's like, oh, I'm struggling so much, I need to do another course about to manage my stress. I need to regulate my nervous system. Like, usually when it comes to like regulation of the nervous systems, it's again like you're not embracing the full experience of life, but you're trying to push certain things away, suppress them by doing certain practices, like you're trying to manage the anxiety, the stress factors, whatever, instead of truly fully experience them and seeing what's the deeper layer beneath it. So you don't need more practices. Obviously, again, it's always good to have certain practices to start. Oh, that's my own experience, to have certain practices, especially like with breathing, movement, but also that it's different for everyone, to come back to that. But when I say, especially when it comes to nervous system regulation, it's not about doing more. Usually it's about doing less and being aware of what creates it. And then it can be, yes, that you need to leave a certain relationship or a certain workplace. But also, and it's not about doing then more mindfulness training, because this can add to your stress factor. But this is a total other topic, but just comes all back to this. Yeah, what's up with this spiritual bubble, especially like creating this, I feel like it's creating a separation between people. And it's so not true. Again, what does it mean to be alive? What does it mean to be spiritual? What does it mean to be on this earth? we all came here together, and also here it's okay if you don't like certain people. You don't need to spend time with them or thinking, but we are all one, I need to love everyone. No, it's good to have different emotions, to have different experiences, to experience a whole spectrum of being human, to embrace it. I think this is what it means to be truly alive, is to embrace all of life, to feel it, and feel it especially through your body, and not being stuck in your head. I also don't think it's good to be like a robot going through life, but being open to experience and feeling everything that comes your way. I believe for me it always comes back to that, but it took me a long way to get here, because I was really also caught up in this spiritual bubble. And I have to say, yeah, so even I know myself, I use certain phrases and I do believe in that and I do practice this and whatever. Sometimes it just annoys me, but it's maybe also me that I don't want to fit into this basket, or but I also don't really feel like I fit into that basket, but it's like a new way that is shaping, which I feel like I can see in general that this is happening. But I think, especially again with the spiritual bubble or my annoyance with it, it's not about that you need more practices or you need more feminine practice, more polarity, more masculine. It's just live your life and see what comes up for you. Like, it's the most beautiful teacher, that life. Your most beautiful teacher is life, when you encounter it with awareness. And obviously you don't have to analyze everything or do everything with it. Sometimes it's really about like letting certain things also go, and this can be hard. But if you're being aware and realize certain patterns, things that come up over and over again with different people, it feels like you're tracking the different people. Yeah, obviously this is life inviting you to look closer. But you don't need to go to a retreat then to heal that. I also feel like this word healing or heal, I've got a bit of friction with that word, because I believe we're all fantastic how we are, and I don't even want to say we are whole. It's more like, again, we are human. And can we accept ourselves for our humanness, and can we accept others for their humanness? And being human is messy. There is no guidebook. And I'm someone who kind of wishes, even though I like to break rules, I also like to follow them, to make it like good when it comes, especially like to have to be a human, because I never want to offend anyone or anything. But everyone makes mistakes, and can we allow mistakes to happen, especially in being human? And I think this is something in the spiritual world, or this consciousness movement, also with like the feminists or whatever. It feels like there's things like it restricts you in certain words. You're not allowed, you think like you're not allowed to use certain phrases. It's like, I can see that within myself. It's like, oh, I don't want to offend anyone, but it's like so hard. Like, it's always like a personal experience if I offend someone or if I don't. Obviously, if I again go and let my reactions out on someone, or like I really mean, yes, obviously, but in general, if I have can I have my own opinion about different things, and it's not like in the Vogue movement, or it's not in the right tone, it's not the tone, it's not the right words that are being used. Can we allow ourselves to make mistakes and learn from one another? Because even if this word might offend me, it doesn't mean that this person meant to offend me or even meant to use it as an offense, but they are used to use that word in that way. So it's not, yes, we can bring awareness to certain topics, but it's also like, we don't have to think so much. Like, you can feel the intention that comes from when you talk to someone. So we don't have to be the police officer and saying, oh, but you phrase that like wrong. It's you have to use like different words, and you have to say, oh, I feel or I think. And I feel like it restricts you in being you, because we try to make it all the same by telling you what you have, how you have to say something, maybe even how you have to think about something, and then which words you use. It's like, can we not feel the intention behind it? And if something then offends you, can we be open enough to ask questions, to inquire them, like, what do you mean? I would use it maybe differently to find maybe even deeper understanding from both sides. And I think that is so beautiful. That's like when their connection happens. And I think, so again, it's like in these woke movements, but also in the spiritual world, it's so like, oh, you're not like being cautious enough with your words or how you move. You need to move slower, or you need to be more silent. And it's like this, it's a restriction, a limitation of being human, and messy human, and allowing ourselves again to experience all of that. So I'm just a little bit over it. And I think that since a couple of months, it's like, oh, I don't want to have to do anything with this world anymore, because I'm obviously also in the healing transformation space, and sometimes I'm like, oh, that's not about that I want to heal you or think that you need healing, or it's just it's for me a really also an internal struggle to use certain words, because I think they just have been overused. And yeah, so it's on also, yeah, again, coming back to like buying this course, buying that course, doing this and whatever. I think there's so many beautiful things, and it always helps you, supports you a little bit. But again, are you truly living, or are you just like survival, healing, thinking you need to do more? But I think it's also like a cycle that people go through, especially when they enter this world. It's like more common to do more practices and things. But yeah, this is just something I felt like sharing today with you, and I'm curious to hear if anyone else feels that way, or what's your experience with this, maybe especially also around the word healing. What does it mean to you? If you liked that episode, I would love for you to like it, share it, and follow me. And yeah, reach out to me if you feel like continuing this discussion. Thank you so much, and see you next time.